to the new episode of Film in Minnesota. My name is Rahana Power.
I'm Alan Tracy.
And we are here today with Jay Ness. It's our wonderful guest. Thank you, Jay, for being here.
Yes. I'm happy to be here.
It's good to see you.
You as well. And nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Yeah, this is wonderful. We're going to jump in first with some non-film questions, just to get to know you a little bit.
Let's do it. Let's do it up.
So, first question: what is the craziest thing that you've done because someone dared you to do it?
I've got one that I typically go to. It involves when I was I was taking the bus home when I was maybe 12. No, I was like 11 years old, and our bus was loud. This isn't a. What's funny about this? I just need to make sure you understand this part. Is prior to it happening, I didn't know that it was a dare because I misheard the person challenging me.
Okay.
And so I'm on the bus, and this kid turns around and says, "Hey," it's like, bite into this gumball. So I'm like, okay, fine. Throw it back into my mouth, and it was a paintball, and I started foaming paint all over, like seriously, like all over my winter coat, and this is like I'm like 11 years old, so it's like a pretty vulnerable age, like, to be, making stupid decisions like that. But then I'm trying to like scoop it back up and hang on to it in my hand, and it kept fizzing in my mouth, and it's just like my and I could feel it starting to go down my throat. And so fortunately I spit it out, but that is one thing that comes to mind when we're talking dares, because I was not only foolish for doing it, but that's my best. That's my best. That's what I've got. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that counts. That's a good answer.
That was pretty
How long
great.
did it take to did it stain anything, like your clothes or your skin or anything like that?
It was, I know it was in the winter, so I was able to, I think when I jumped off the bus, I grabbed a bunch of snow and just started basically throwing snow on myself on my winter coat, and and it's I wasn't even mad. I was like, oh, that was stupid of me to not to not ask more about why am I doing this? Why do you want me to do this? Kid I don't know, who I've never talked to before. Sure, I will put that in my mouth.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Great.
Next question. If you could be a member of any TV sitcom family ever, what would it be? Or who would it be?
Okay. I feel like I would fit into the Bluth family pretty well. As in
Okay.
I feel like I don't know. It's a ragtag group of characters, and I think I could find a purpose between them all. When I was a kid, I would say maybe something more like the Arnolds from the Wonder Years. I always saw myself in that kid, in Fred Savage, and I just remember being that's what life is like, and this show makes sense. So I would choose the Bluth family because
they're rich.
They are, yeah.
Or they were.
They all just have this sense of we will do whatever we want, and Michael will just take care of everything.
Yes.
Who do you relate more to on that show?
I'm totally Michael, but also I've got some Job in me for sure, just because I think my sense of humor. When I was a kid, George Michael, for sure. But yeah, I haven't watched any of the newer seasons of that. Have you guys? Is it good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real good. I think they're making another season's coming out, hopefully soonish.
Because I know they did the fourth one, and then that was So how many of they got? What, 5 now? 5, right?
Oh gosh, that's a fantastic question that I should know the answer to. I'm probably going to hear about it later that I don't.
So yeah, I mean the first 3 seasons. I mean, like, I love dearly.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the entirety of season 4, and I think there's 5 because I remember scrolling through Netflix and it's saying new episodes. I think it's cool that they're still trying to keep that going. Like all those. I feel like that entire cast is so busy now, and I think they found some really creative ways to create, episodes out of, things they've been.
Yeah, it's
like,
5.
It's 5.
Let's focus on this character for an episode. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the Bluths, banana stand.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right,
and their lawyer too.
Oh, yeah. You can't
Yes.
forget
Barry.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Barry, the Fonz, Henry. Yeah.
What a departure, right? Now he's working for Ron Howard. It's just like.
Yeah, I know.
Well, then the final question is going to be, do you have a special random talent, maybe something that people don't necessarily know that you have already about you?
Yeah, I do. It has to do with Donald Duck. And, I used to be able to talk in Donald Duck's voice when I was younger. I can still kind of do it.
Okay.
But it's not like I can't have we can't converse doing it, but I used to do it for my friends and like for my class, and people were just like, "Oh," and it I think that kind of plays into like just my desire to act and stuff as a kid, and then it transformed into becoming a filmmaker. But do you guys want me to do the impression? You guys are looking at me.
That would really be fantastic.
All right, see if I can do it here.
Okay.
I don't know, a lot of pressure, guys.
Okay, we won't look at you. You're good.
No, that's all right. I can. Maybe you should look at me. It's like, how is he doing that? Okay, I need something to say.
Okay. How about?
What would Donald Duck say? Or what would you say? How about those darn kids?
Oh my gosh. That's really good, Jay.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
wow.
Like, I don't know where that came from, like, as a kid. I mean, I know where it came from, but like why I had such like a burning desire to be able to impersonate Donald Duck of all things and of all characters. I want to like spending time as a kid, like in my room, like recording myself talk like Donald Duck and then playing it back and being like, oh, that sounds pretty good.
Was it on a talk boy?
I had one of those.
Oh my God, those things used to be the best.
Hi, kids, we're home early.
You don't need a talk boy.
Those things were awesome. Okay, well, you do that voice very well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe I'll practice more and
some of your answers here, maybe.
Yeah. We'll see about that.
If it just like strikes you in the moment to talk like Donald Duck,
I'll bring it back.
Yeah,
I'll bring it back next time.
Perfect.
The whole thing.
So Jay,
the whole thing.
how did you get started in film? You mentioned acting. How would you say you kind of got your start?
Yeah, it mostly began with my parents owning an RCA VHS camcorder, watching a ton of films that I probably was too young for, and doing things like playing video games, buying movie soundtracks on cassette, and kind of, I guess, being taken away by all of that and finding ways to utilize them. And this VHS camera, this camcorder changed my life. I was doing like these, I was always emulating what I was seeing and wanting to, I guess, regurgitate like the things I liked in my own fashion somehow. I remade a bunch of weird movies and sequels to films that probably didn't need to have sequels.
What were some of these movies that you were maybe too young to watch that you were able to?
Yeah. So there's a story to it. There's like my film school, I feel like, was the video store we had a membership with, had this 5 movies, 5 days, $5, like on all catalog, like old catalog rentals. We didn't have cable or like any like premium channels, so like I just would like roam these halls of tons and tons of VHS tapes, and look at what I thought was interesting, but in particular, I would say like things like John McTiernan, like Predator. Like for some reason, I was watching that at a very young age. Terminator 2. Let's see here, RoboCop. Like, it was so weird.
Wow.
My dad was like, my dad was totally okay with it. But the one thing like he didn't like was the swearing. Like, violence was okay for some reason, but swearing like
unacceptable.
Like that. There's a reason it took me until I was like 25 to see the Lethal Weapon movies, because like Shane Black, like, fuck this, fuck that. But yeah, I kind of got to go into this sort of gold, like, it was like a gold mine for me, because that's all I did. Like, and throughout the weekend, like if I had a friend stay over, we'd just binge watch movies, or like I'd watch some with my dad. And then the following Sunday we'd bring him back, and then I would just get more. So yeah, it's pretty, I look back and think like, yeah, like, because it's important, because I think it's those films and like those experiences that kind of inspired me to like they had so many practical effects, and they had such great art direction and like costume work and things like that, and I started integrating that stuff in the stuff that I was wanting to make. So yeah, that's where I'll leave that. I mean, we can keep talking about it if you want. I feel like a lot of my favorite movies I saw like before the age of 10, which is strange when I tell you what they are.
Yeah.
So what was your first film that you kind of professionally made, or first project, I guess, that you worked on?
I did a lot of music videos, which were considered, professional. But when it comes to like a straight up like film movie narrative, when I was 20 or 21, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to do this right and take it seriously, serious. Serious as in get my friends and convince them to be in my movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
how it goes. Yeah.
And beg and plead for forgiveness when things would take longer than I wanted it to, and I was eating up. Like my poor friend had to keep the same haircut and like stubble for like 2.5 years because it took me this long to do my first film. It was a film based on a video game called Silent Hill. And it actually got distributed through a video game YouTube channel called the Machinima Network. And that took, let's see here, we began shooting it in like 2009, and then I premiered it at the end of 2012. I mean, it's way too long. It wound up being like 24 minutes, but the important thing I think was finishing it and having something to show for the people that either were helping or not wanting to be there but still were because they were my friends.
What was it called?
It's called Silent Hill Anniversary. And interestingly, YouTube just changed their whole marketing. I shouldn't say YouTube. The YouTube Machinima channel just changed their entire marketing spiel and their channels, and so they took it down from their channel. Though you can find it, I think I've got it. I think I've since opened it up on Vimeo. So
okay,
it's got cool stuff like the We had a creature that was created by a Polish VFX artist named Izabela Zelmanska, and she wound up going on to work on like the Lord of the Rings video game that came out like a year and a half ago. She actually designed the Balrog, that creature, that thing that like takes down Gandalf in Fellowship. And then last time I saw, she was working on Justice League, removing mustaches. So things get interesting. So
wow,
cool. Well, yeah, that sounds like you got some inspiration from video games and movies. Like, is there anything like a filmmaker or films that you really drew from to produce what you do today more? Like, is there any source of inspiration that are...
So, in terms of, I guess, what inspires me to do what we're doing, I'm certainly, most certainly, my peers, our collaborators. I think people like that who are constantly working and wanting to create things personally keep me on my toes, and wanting to be creative. I mean, beyond my own personal desire. And I guess just storytelling from all sorts of mediums, even music. But I actually read a lot, and I also think that there's a lot of good stuff to attain from comic books and like graphic novels, because like that was kind of how I learned how to storyboard, or like just kind of decide what needs to be shown. Like
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as like film and filmmakers, a lot. There's a lot of people that are like, people are doing some good stuff today. I feel like Robert Rodriguez, as far as becoming a filmmaker, taught me a lot. Like just his methods on solving issues and looking at film from a perspective that nothing's impossible as long as you're open-minded enough and willing to make some sacrifices and changes to your vision in order to make something happen on the screen. I don't know, man. I'm a big fan of, I would say, Darren Aronofsky has definitely spoken to me over time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think he's really bold with what he chooses to do. I'm always interested in seeing what he's up to. Though I didn't see, what was the last one he did? Was it was a biblical film, right?
Oh, Ben-Hur? Was that it?
No, it was, I feel like, am I screwing this up? I feel like he did, what was it? Whatever.
Didn't he do Mother? Or is that someone else?
That is I think that is Aronofsky. Yeah. And I did see that, and like, to me that's like not even a movie, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all, or in a negative way. I think a film like that, like, just kind of exists as its own art form. I can understand why people don't like it, or maybe didn't quite find enough to get out of it, but I thought it was a really great, just kind of statement on just something he was trying to express or represent. I felt that way about like The Fountain too, with Hugh Jackman. And
that was an excellent film.
Yeah.
At that time, I didn't get it. The first time I saw it, I was like, what is going on, Wolverine?
Like,
this
why is he
not...
stuck in a little orb? Like, why is he in a globe? Like,
I don't
know if he made this one or not, but The Fountain reminds me of The Tree of Life. Did you ever see that?
Yep, that's was Terrence Malick.
Yeah,
and then
there you go.
Looks like he did Noah. That's the one you're probably thinking of.
I didn't catch that one. I like Fincher. I love David Fincher. What I love about Fincher is he's really good at creating a world that I want to go to, and it's not. I take a lot of inspiration from a filmmaker like him, because I always feel like he's creating these worlds that exist from in his mind, but it's not like an insane, I guess, like a leaps and bounds away from reality ever. I just think like
it's like a parallel universe.
It's like a parallel universe. I like, it's like you can.
It's a little off. It feels a little off.
You can, yeah, but at the same time, it's like you can. I feel like I can still walk into the same room as those characters. I think it's really cool. I'm actually like a big Zack Snyder fanboy. Like I just like his world building. Like it's incredible. He's an incredible visionary. Christopher Nolan, Danny Boyle. I mentioned RoboCop earlier, so Verhoeven, naturally. Catherine Bigelow. I think she does great stuff. One of the first movies I made was a sequel to Point Break, and then actually first a remake of Point Break, and then an unnecessary sequel to Point Break after that. And that was like, I was going to like public access for that and like using analog editing like tools and like going like from tape to tape, cutting things in. And
wow.
I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of who else I've been digging. Affleck. Like Affleck does some great work. Danny Boyle. Meh. Yeah. I'd say I grew up like liking. I grew up. No, I'm not gonna go there. Not unless you guys ask. I feel like I'm just mumbling. So like,
you're fine. This is good.
I feel like I feel like I could mumble or ramble on and on and on. But like growing up, it was like Amblin Entertainment films that I think like just naturally inspired me. Like or like Robert Zemeckis, like Back to the Future. Like I don't know. Like it made me want to go on some sort of an adventure. Or same with like, you know, of course there's Star Wars or Indiana Jones, and then James Cameron. I was watching James Cameron
movie.
He makes one every 7 years.
Yeah. So I've exactly maybe the two that existed until I was like 15.
Yeah. Didn't they say they're going to make 4 more Avatars?
Avatar. Apparently
Supposedly.
They've read, like I was reading that Sigourney Weaver has filmed like the 3rd and 4th film, like already, or like is working on the 3rd. So like, stuff is in the bag.
I think I saw Zoe Saldana was posting on Instagram. You guys should follow Zoe Saldana on Instagram. Something about like she was in full costume and like filming, and I don't remember if it's the 2nd one or the 3rd one that she's particularly filming right now, but she's like, yeah, we're working on it. And then she had a picture of her and Sam Worthington saying like it's happening. So
where did Sam Worthington go?
That's a really good question.
He was in everything.
Well,
my girlfriend and I talk about that a lot.
He was in everything for a long time, and then
he stopped.
Avatar just sucked him right in for the
I guess so. I mean,
4 movies in a row type of thing.
I suppose like if that's what he's been doing, I mean, like
he's just working on the 2nd one right now. Like, what's going on? Where'd you go?
Well, I mean, he deserves a break too. I mean,
no, he is here for our entertainment.
He's not Tom Hardy. I mean, no, I'm just kidding.
I suppose he made The Titan that's on Netflix, and then he made The Shack last year, Hacksaw Ridge. Did you guys see Hacksaw Ridge?
Mm-hmm.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
Was that the Mel Gibson film?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mel Gibson. He's a fucking bastard, but God, he knows how to make a good movie.
Yep.
I liked Hacksaw Ridge as well. I thought it was excellent.
But so that's where he went. He's literally just doing Avatar now, it looks like. So out of all these inspirations and these people that you love and admire, is there a specific genre that you're kind of drawn to when not only watching these films, but being inspired by them, like something that you enjoy doing the most?
I think it gets back to, we're talking about sort of this, I do have this fascination with not wanting to make films that take place in my backyard. Mm-hmm. That's how I word it. And what I mean by that is I admire films like Looper, for instance, because you watch that movie and you can watch some scenes and it's like, this is reality, and then something happens, like, you know, turn a corner or like a car drives by and it's like, well, what the hell was that? Like, oh yeah, this isn't quite our reality. Like this is it flipped on its back and shifted. It's actually a similar approach to what I did for Dark Cloud, or what we did in terms of integrating sci-fi elements. So I'd say like there's always, I feel like, this little bit of doom and gloom sci-fi look to the stuff I want to make. Pretty moody, and that's pretty personal too. Like you come to my office and like all the lights are always off, and like
I guess he's not in.
Like
just trying to avoid having visitors.
and like, well, it's like I get in conversations like, hey, can we turn the overhead lights off? And they're like, why? I'm like, God, I just don't like it. It's gross. I don't know. It's like some quirk of mine, and I think I kind of find myself like leaning towards that when it comes to the look of things I want to make. So sci-fi elements, darker tones, I think, definitely. I just am bored by, I can't get as passionate about doing something like that I see every day. Like I want to create something that truly might make someone, leave their current state of real life in terms of forget about all the terrible shit going on around them. Like I think that's another part of it too. And then like growing up watching the movies that I watched, I wasn't watching Woody Allen films when I was a kid, and not to say that his movies don't feel like reality or anything like that, but I just, we were talking about James Cameron versus Woody Allen, two very different filmmakers.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd say the ethereal sort of disconnect and shifted reality is really attractive to me.
Well, tell us about that, your most recent feature work on Dark Cloud, and how it became the film you wanted to make. Is it something you really wanted to pursue, or was it the other way around? Was it the project given to you more so, or how?
Good question. So here is how I would answer part of that. Craig Patrick, the executive producer, and I had been having brunch or grabbing phone calls and talking for the past couple of years. And we went on to sit down one particular time last fall, and was like, hey, like, I'm wrapping up this and this, and this is what's going on in my life. Like, I want to do another one. So I'm like, oh, you want to make a movie? And I'm like, so do I. Hey, we've got something in common. I'm talking as if like I found that out after after having lunch with him.
Yeah, brunch.
I know. Yeah, brunch. It's like no.
Now that I'm full, I'm good to make a movie.
Now that I'm full, I think it's time to tell you that I also would like to make a movie. And no, so I brought. There was a particular meeting I brought along my business partner and friend, excuse me, John Kaiser, who actually wound up writing the film. We initially had another idea before this one, and we kind of deemed it maybe a little bit too difficult to film. It had to do with the North Shore and this kind of small town lakeside, or I guess fish, like a fishing town, essentially, like, and the idea behind that had to do with like the sacrifice and this offering that they had been keeping up for years and years, that would essentially grant them a good season for when going out to sea.
Yeah.
And the offering was sacrificing someone to the sea, to the sea witch, and it was kind of this
witch. Yes.
Yeah. So it was like it was psychological, like this thing, and then the catch with this one was that, well, for the first time ever, the body washed back.
Oh,
and so
a
did
twist.
did the sea witch like reject it? You know, is there actually a sea witch? And kind of the madness that I guess sort of blossoms as a result of this anomaly of a situation they've never experienced. So
that does sound interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that one sometime when it's ready. But we started thinking more about, you know, controlled environment and small scale. And John had this idea about utilizing a virtual assistant. And we sat down and brainstormed a bunch of ideas one night, several hours, back and forth. And he went away and came back with a draft in like a week. And we had this concept, an idea. And we built on that and, you know, showed Craig and revised it several times after him saying, yeah, no, this is doable, and I believe in the idea, and it's relevant. Our approach was basically taking a virtual assistant like Siri or Alexa and glorifying its capabilities, and a lot of commentary on what technology is doing for us these days. And then, that was pretty much the kickstart of the process.
Kind of a Black Mirror type of...
It's very Black Mirror. Yeah, that mentality of just sort of things will go wrong. You know, there's a lot of great things about technology. I mean, like, we're using it right now. It's good for the economy. You don't have to leave your house. It's opened up this door to so much information, and also just, what am I trying to say here? It's like, you know, pros and cons, and also the approach wasn't to do something like post-apocalyptic. Like, we were more interested in examining reality and like what could be a stepping stone leading to that scenario, sort of thing. So
yeah, because I mean, you think about where we are now, you wouldn't expect everyone to be living on their phones 10 years ago. So no. It's like,
exactly. It's a great point. But I don't know. Do you feel like I answered your question? Shit, I feel like I just go on and on and
that's
on.
Fine. It's about your film, so it's like, is this really the film you wanted to make? Did it turn out maybe the way you wanted to? Or I guess I don't know if you're there yet.
I mean, let me, if you don't mind, how about I just like, I can kind of talk about it,
right?
Like what it is, and then sort of like how it became what I wanted. If that, I can kind of like segue into it.
Absolutely.
But Dark Cloud is this psychological thriller with, of course, sci-fi elements, a bit of horror, and it finds its home in our reality, and also takes that, that pivot or that shift that we were talking about, and it's potentially a few years in the future, kind of are undefined as far as the future goes. But really it's about humanity's growing dependence on machines, and particularly a protagonist who's utilizing the opportunities presented with technology and welcomes it to help write the next chapter of her life.
Wow.
So that's kind of what it's about, but plot-wise, there's a traumatic accident. So following this accident, our protagonist, Chloe, volunteers to become subject to an artificial intelligence built into a house, and it's an experiment. and definitely a film I wanted to make. Taking John's story, or taking John's wonderful dialogue and story, and telling it in a way that I would want to experience it, was really important to me, and ensuring that my personality is sewed into it just as much as John's. And it was a deep dive into my own sort of psychological state and some things I'd been through. And then just not being scared to allow some of these bizarre influences and things that inspired me as a kid to kind of creep in and then build this thing. I made it very, very personal, and took the screenplay to, how can I never know how to describe what I'd say overall. When the script got into my hands 4 or 5 months before we were rolling, I definitely made it weirder. A lot of my style of directing and how I know how to tell a story is visually. As incredible as some of John's dialogue is, I wound up having to dial back a little bit. There were just some things I wanted to make more of an unspoken presence, and I think I use the word tension every time I talk about this, because we as humans, every time I feel like when there is tension, a lot of times we don't speak to each other, or it goes unspoken, and you see it and you feel it. And that's a lot of what I was trying to evoke out of some of this storytelling. And his words are so beautiful; it's hard to manipulate them. But at the same time, things would change, and there's a feature film he went off to do. I shouldn't say he went off to do because I was part of it, but he had to put all of his power and energy and time and creative thought into that project. And so it became about preserving this integrity of the script and making it my own at the same time, because I don't want to say like I rewrote scenes like right. in a sense, like some of the I'd say like the action and the stuff, there wasn't dialogue. Yeah, I changed that stuff and a lot of it. And I also changed how and when the audience learns certain things about the story, or because it was about, like, I wanted to create an experience that was parallel to the character, the protagonist, because if we knew things she didn't, or if she knew these things that we didn't, I don't know, that it very much I wanted to feel like a ride, almost like a ride. That's what a thriller is like. You learn as you go, and you attain things as you go. And so it just took some modifying and tweaking. And there's a couple characters that we didn't quite have, I wouldn't say our approach to one of the characters, I would say was different. John believed it should be one way, and I was supportive of that, though I saw it another way that it could be done. And that's the route I went, actually, as a result of just, I think challenging myself, especially when the film went from R to PG-13. That was a fantastic challenge and a growing experience that I think actually improved the movie drastically, because it's really easy to do rated R material. It's like, doesn't matter what you show, like, as long as it doesn't get into XYZ territory or X territory. And so it was really cool. So I went and watched like a lot of a lot of these contemporary PG-13 horror films, like James Wan, what he does. I actually had never really given him the time of day before. It wasn't like I was like, oh, screw James Wan, like that looks like crap. No, it wasn't that. It's just horror to me, and it's so interesting because I feel like the last 3 movies I've done are in the horror genre, but like I'm not like a avid horror consumer at all. Like,
really?
At all. Like no.
Yeah.
Like so, I had never seen the Conjuring films. I had never seen Insidious. I had never seen. What's the other one that Annabelle Creation?
It's still part of Conjuring universe.
Okay.
The
So,
Nun. Yeah.
so I mean, like, but just like I did some studying about how he would execute scares, and also just he's really good at not being cheap, and that was really important to me. But no, it was a fantastic experience. I've never been so stressed out in my life and sleep deprived, but man, it's really about to me it's about the process and working and building up to that process. I'll admit I hate pre-production. It's just this mind fuck of
scheduling.
Yeah, check boxes.
Yeah.
Are boxes that need to be checked, rather, that just never end.
Then you have to go and take it as it is when
and
you
then
serve it up.
you abandon those checklists, and somehow they get taken care of.
Imagine that.
Yeah, things happen.
Time goes on. What do you know?
Yeah, I'm really excited to finish it up. The talent we have is fantastic. Alexis Gabrielle playing Chloe. She was more than I thought Chloe could be, and it was really important to the both of us to integrate her, I guess, who she is as a person into it, because I've always said that it's insanely important for characters to feel real, and I kind of wanted that approach with Chloe, so we left that as this sort of slate that could be filled with a lot of different quirks and kinks and ingredients. So that was really fun. And Emily Atack, we didn't work long together, but I was familiar with her from The In-Betweeners, the UK show. I don't think she was in the movie, but it was really exciting to get her on board. Hugo Armstrong, that guy is awesome. He's been acting since he was like in 4th grade. And we had some really amazing moments on set with him. And it's so funny because like I remember sitting across from that guy, and I have this terrible imposter syndrome, and I recall just looking at him, and we're sitting on the floor waiting for this setup to get reset, and I remember just thinking like, man, that dude's been directed by Dan Gilroy. Like, and here I am telling him what to do. and I wasn't that intimidated by it, but it was kind of just like a slap in the face. It was like at that moment I was like, this boy who I was who wanted to make movies, like I'm doing that. Like I'm doing it. And like it was this sort of like that 12-year-old kid I talked about earlier in me would just be shitting his pants. You'd be shitting all over the place, everywhere, because he just couldn't contain his excitement. But awesome guy, friendly guy, likes playing video games. We bonded over that. Amanda Day, Justin Jones, Toussaint Morrison, Anna Strands, a gentleman from London came to set. His name is Pierce Stevens. just want to make sure I gave a shout out to the wonderful cast and the crew, of course. Obviously, you can find this the listing on IMDb, but it was a great team, and I certainly couldn't have gotten through it without their attitude and their support. So
it seems like there's a lot of really incredible collaboration on this project, which is something that a lot of our guests so far have mentioned is just a huge aspect of the film community here in Minnesota. Do you find that? And if so, like, what else do you enjoy about doing film here rather than going straight to LA or New York and doing it there?
Yeah, I think Minnesota is definitely kind of like this hidden little beacon in the Midwest. I think we get overlooked by Chicago, and rightfully so in some ways. I mean, there's so much going on over there, but I definitely think that in terms of shooting here and creating here, we as a community have a tightly knit scene. And I've been fortunate enough to surround myself by like-minded individuals whom are willing to, I guess, get behind any of these crazy ideas I might have. So my experience has been just absolutely, I'm so fortunate, and I'm so grateful, because not everyone gets that. Not everyone gets the support they want to do what they want, and I feel like for me, collaboration is always about opportunity, and most of the people I work with, I have found think that way. Because face it, like a lot of times, like the narrative, really, really fun stuff to work on, like you don't get paid, or you don't get paid much. And I'm perfectly okay with that. If it means being a part of something that I believe in, or it being worth it to have invested creative energy into it, I'm all for that. I'm so on board, and I'll never understand the people who, like, I get it, like, and I do, like, I can't say I'll never understand, because I also don't have a family and kids, but like I'll never understand when people's situations are like, oh, I really want to do it. Oh, my gosh, I really want to do it. Like, that sounds so awesome, but you can't afford me, so I'm gonna walk away. Like that or like you don't have. I almost sound like I feel like a jerk saying that, but like I feel like right now where I am in my position, I have this luxury to be working with people who just want to make cool art, and I don't know that would be that easy to do anywhere else, like in LA.
Right.
Like my experience, like in LA personally, is pretty limited.
So yeah, you have made films outside of Minnesota too?
I have, not in LA. The project that comes to mind when you ask about it is I went to Europe for 2 months.
Wow.
Back in 2016, and made what became a web series, but essentially was a feature-length documentary with my friend Timmy Schrader, and we co-directed, co-everything, codependent on each other in order to get this thing out the door. We traveled to 9 different countries in 2 months, studying American football. When I say American football, not to be confused with soccer, like actual American football. And it wasn't something we did on our own. We were hired by a couple producers who were wanting to build this platform for recruits to basically cross the seas and play professional football in Europe. It was one hell of an adventure. Like, I wish we could have had a documentary or like a team basically following us like on all the crazy shit that we had to go through to
The
get from
making
country.
of.
Like, yeah, seriously,
Mm-hmm.
like oh man, like there is a day where like I kid you not, like in order to catch our train and get to film this I'm trying to think, we were going to get to Amsterdam the next day. Not Amsterdam, oh my god. Austria, big difference. To get to Austria, like they had these platforms, and like you had to go underground to get over to these other platforms where our train was going, and so the guy who was basically leading our team and one of the producers, he began throwing his luggage like down onto the rails. Like, it's the only way, guys. Like, it's the only way. And like throwing his luggage. And we had like everything on our backs. We're talking like not only our gear, but like our life with us for like the next 2 months. And we're just like throwing these massive suitcases over ledge after ledge. And people are screaming at us, yelling at us. Like I remember like this one guy who's like, camera, they'll see you, camera. And all I could think was like, we don't care. Like, we need to catch our train. I mean, I would have been fine waiting till the morning, like, because it was terrifying with this adrenaline rush of throwing all of your life down onto the tracks and then back up. And we did make the train, but like I biffed. Yeah, like I did a really good job of making that intense. But like I biffed out on my way outside the train, and like it was so funny. We had people cheering us on who didn't speak our language. Like we got on the train, we're getting these high fives, and this one guy, like, I remember sitting down, taking my seat and being like, just like sweating and like putting my luggage away and sitting down and like looking across the way, like down the other edge of the train. And like this guy was just like looking at it. And he's just like, yeah. Like he was really excited for us. He saw what we went through to make it. Anyway, so that was insane. And so that we came back and did post on that.
Sorry, I interrupted your LA story. Go ahead with that.
Oh, no, it's okay. The LA bit, I've thought about moving there from time to time, but at the same time, I don't know that I would just go out there blind. I just feel what's cool about the Midwest is creating outside of like this labyrinth that is Los Angeles. I think forces you to think more creatively. Like, we don't have as many resources. Like, we don't have we're not known for filming here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I think forcing yourself to be creative is really, really important, because you'll grow that way and you're not getting stuck and buried in all of the bullshit soup out there. And it's been mostly a positive experience. Like, most people get excited like when someone's filming in their restaurant or there's something going on that they don't see every day. Where like in LA, it's like, oh God, I'm sitting here, like traffic is shittier than it always is.
Traffic on the 101 is just backed up.
Yeah. It's like traffic is even worse right now because they're shutting down the highway because Die Hard 7 is pretending to blow up this part of the highway. Like, they're gonna let us go every 15 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, I think we've got some advantages here that people kind of just look past and be like, oh, I got to go to LA. Got to go to LA to do it. Got to go here to do it.
Yeah, especially with like actors. I think a lot of people in Minnesota have that feeling just for the weather, first of all. But then you also have like, obviously actors and some filmmakers who feel the need to go there because that's where the work is, or at least a lot of the work. The bigger work,
right?
And like you said, like getting paid,
Exactly. I think it's really a crapshoot, and it's about who you know. You're almost kind of creating less of a chance of being noticed in some ways, I think, out there, because you're just kind of part of the herd. And I'm saying this having never lived out there, and I'm not saying it's a terrible place to be. And I completely understand why some people are out there. And I have friends that are incredibly successful, making a living out there and getting to be on these giant films that we all spend money to go see and look forward to every summer, and that doesn't happen here. So I think it's just about kind of the angle you approach it with and come at it from, and I think you can be relevant outside of California. Absolutely. Like, I don't know. You can go there and not live there. You can travel. Yeah. I mean, I know there's a huge difference between reading online versus like in person for actors. So I get that. But I don't know. I want to do it here for as long as possible. If an opportunity comes up where it's like I got to go station out there or something like that, I'm totally open to it. Like, as long as I get to keep doing what I'm doing and it's a good reason. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you would say the same, Alan.
That's right.
Yeah.
I guess, it's like you said, you kind of brought up some of the challenges here in Minnesota in making films. I guess maybe what are some of those that you found just in general? Or maybe what was the biggest challenge that you've encountered?
Well, I find that every winter a couple things happen. People aren't as likely to be shooting outside. It's just, when your gear is crippling, from the weather, it's not exactly ideal. And speaking of crippling, like on a more personal level, like why it's, I think, challenge to be making film not only in a place that looks depressing 7 months out of the year, but like I've got this crippling anxiety. I think there's tons of challenges in Minnesota that could very well be a counter argument for why someone would want to go to LA. It's like, I don't want to be in snow. I want to work all year round at the same pace so I can pay my bills and I can plan my future. Unlike Jay Ness.
Well, is there something that you look forward to most when you start a new project or start collaborating?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always rewarding in the end, but what I find in the process is it's really delightful to be surprised by what other creatives have to offer, whether it's the talent on screen, it's someone from the lighting department, and if it's a PA who just decides to shout something. I'm always fascinated and impressed by how our brains work differently, and that's like my favorite part of the collaborative process is just seeing how other people's minds soak in storytelling and maybe problem solve or else come up with alternatives. And I've always subscribed to the idea that the best idea should win. Like, I don't care where it comes from. If a guy driving by, decide to say, you frame him on the left as he's, as the Doppler effect continues, as he continues to give me advice. And I think, you know what? Like,
I could be convinced that would work.
No, it just says, it's like that's just part of the process as things come up in the moment. And, that's looking forward to that synchronization. It has happened for me, and it does continue to happen for me because I feel that I have the creative team that understands the way I think, and
like you said, makes it be creative as opposed to like in LA where I can just find this guy or that guy to do this thing, and
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And furthermore on that, it's important that I think you stick to your guns, and I totally understand, for instance, why like they're the Judd Apatow crew, like they've pretty much got a gang, because you know what, they know what they want to do, they know how each other work, and they know who would be right for what. Or even Christopher Nolan, like Tom Hardy, Marianne Cotillard, Michael Caine, like he has like his people, except for Wally Pfister, he doesn't have him anymore. But like I get that sense of confidence that you just want when you are in the trenches and when you are in tough situations where people already know how you think and how you might want to handle a situation. And people just, it just makes it so much more digestible in terms of the overall goal everyone is trying to achieve. And that synchronization is just, I think it's just one of the big keys, man. And because, because there's things like right in front of your face that might be there, and if you've got a like-minded individual creative standing next to you at the monitor, they might say something that solves this problem or maybe is a great alternative or suggestion, and then watch it unfold in the monitor. Sounds like you were going to say something. I want to hear it.
Yeah,
Tell me.
When the crew is going one direction and the cast is going another, that's, diametrically opposed forces not working together, so it can change the way a production works. So
yeah, when given the opportunity, and which I was for Dark Cloud for a lot of the cast, I personally find it insanely invaluable to get to know who you're working with. Not only do you get an advantage when it comes to obviously your film, but just language in general and how certain people's brains work and think. And I like to direct using a lot of analogies. And if I've spent, like Justin Jones, for instance, I talk to that guy probably every other day for some reason, like 7 a.m. in the morning, just to call and say, hey, how's it going, man? Oh, I'm just eating my Fruit Loops and looking forward to getting coffee shortly. And let me tell you about this TV show I stumbled upon that I think you should check. It's those everyday people. If somehow if you can find a working relationship with people that you know incredibly well and not damage it, and also keep it intact and I don't know. I just think you're going to be able to communicate and move a lot faster.
Right.
It's about, I guess, being on the same wavelength.
Well, what is next for you, Jay? Like, you're finishing up Dark Cloud.
Yeah.
And then what?
A lot of post-production. A lot of post-production. I'm not cutting Dark Cloud. A very talented gentleman by the name of Jeremy Wanick is cutting it, and he's done several features and VFX work for a lot of really, really incredible projects. He did like the Dementia 13 remake that was on TV, like the Francis Ford Coppola remake. He does a lot of, he does a lot of horror, but he's a hell of a storyteller. So I'm excited to see what he does with it, and he gets to, he's going to come in from this vantage point, unbiased, and he's probably going to give me a run for my money in terms of challenging me, and I'm excited for that because I think a lot of conversations need to happen when it comes down to the way film should go and what should be cut, what can be, and him and I also just we met each other through editing at a publishing house. After I left, he got the job, and I came back for freelance work, and talked a lot about just filmmaking in general and became friends. So I'm really excited to see where that goes, where he takes it. We've got composing getting, I don't want to say started, but we're trying some things out. And let's see here. John's film, Only Dance Can Save Us, I will be cutting and coloring that, so I'll be up to my ears, over my head in getting that film finished. Oh, let's see. I'll be revisiting Curse of the Invisible Werewolf, which is a film we shot in 2015, and I'm looking into doing some reshoots in order to condense the film so it can actually get accepted into festivals, because right now it's like 22 minutes. And yeah, it's a hard...
it's a short?
It's a short.
Well, yeah. Long short currently.
A long short. We're going to make it a real short.
Yeah. It'll be fine in Europe and Asia. So
yeah. So yeah, it's so thinking about those things, working a lot where I can find it, and yeah.
You've got a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a lot going on. Where can people find your work or contact you?
My website, for sure. It's just my name, Jay, with a hyphen, so j-ness.com. It's got links. So I changed my Twitter account, so I got to update that. No, I don't, because I'll do it before 2019 when this airs. So let me start this over. It's like, you know where to find me. I've got a website. It's jness.com, but it's j-ness.com. I'm very active on Instagram. I don't prefer Facebook. Instagram is an amazing platform to connect and look at imagery and chat. But yeah, all those links are on my webpage. And yeah.
Nice. Well, last question, Jay. What do you want people to remember most about you?
No pressure.
Yeah. Little question.
No pressure. When you're dead.
Or even just after they work
sort of
with
thoughts?
you, or
Yeah.
what do you want to stay with them?
Mm-hmm. A couple things. I hope that my knack for empathy will have shined through. I think it's incredibly important to listen to people or communicate in order to learn why someone's thinking a certain way, or maybe believes one thing over another, or if there's a conflict. Try to see it from their perspective. I'm not always right. And when it comes to creativity, it's really easy to get lost in your own sort of, well, when you're the director, like a vision, I guess. Something like that. That's what they call it, a vision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So being empathetic is so important, because the process is what people are going to remember when you ask them to come back. Doesn't matter how amazing your film is, if you packed up shop and made this fantastic film, and you were disrespectful and hurtful or in some cases traumatized crew and cast members, like, then you're that's like the ultimate failure. So and I learned that from filmmaker Ryan Booth at Masters in Motion, and I've held that dearly in terms of my approach. And I'll back this up with, in life or in creative work, remember that I was interested, and I was interested in listening, or being some sort of motivator, I guess, hopefully to make something happen. Hear people out when it matters, and talking when it's needed, and I guess making people feel something, whether it's on that creative level or a personal level, and hoping it's somewhat positive, even if you don't like my art. Maybe you'll learn something and turn it into a positive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'll say.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for taking the time to be with us and talk to us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed my hoarse voice in your ears. I totally played that up a little bit.
You're okay.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you guys again in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.